Hello, in this video you will learn role of virtualization in cloud computing and its type. So what is virtualization? Virtual means not physically existing, and we are using some software for its appearance. It means we are creating a virtual environment for the user. That is nothing but just the virtual version of something. So for virtualization we are using Hypervisor. What is Hypervisor? It is a program that we are using for the creating and running virtual machines. And using Hypervisor we can control and monitor the processes, memory and other hardware resources. So what is virtualization? Something that does not exist physically. So using software we are creating a virtual environment for the users, that is the virtual version of something, and for this we are using Hypervisor. Hypervisor is a program. Using this program you can create and run virtual machines, and you can also control and manage the different processes, memory and hardware resources. Now we have how virtualization works. In the cloud computing, virtualization is the process in which user can share the data that is present in the cloud, and it provides the virtual environment to the end users. So here we are talking about a virtual environment. So in virtual environment user can use virtual hardware, virtual softwares. A program that is Hypervisor, it is nothing but just the virtual machine monitor. That is the software we use to create and maintain the virtual machines, and we use Hypervisor for the connectivity between the server and the virtual environment. And you can also distribute the resources between the different virtual environment using Hypervisor. Then we have different types of popular hypervisors such as VMware based on ESXi, and we have Microsoft Hyper-V 5. Now how a hypervisor works? Because for virtualization we are using this program that is Hypervisor. So how it works? As you know, this is a virtual machine monitor. It is a layer that exists between the operating system and hardware. So Hypervisor is nothing but just the layer that exists in between the operating system and hardware, and it provides us services and features for the smooth running of the multiple operating system. And Hypervisor responds to CPU instructions, and you can see here as we are talking, this is the layer. You can see here Hypervisor layer that exists between the operating system and the hardware. Done. And it provides the necessary services and features for the smooth running of the multiple operating system. So a hypervisor allows one host machine. As you can see here we have the hardware, or you can say this is the host computer. So a hypervisor, when we will install a hypervisor on this host machine, it will allow you to use multiple guest virtual machines while virtually sharing its resources such as memory and processing. So when you will install a hypervisor on a host machine, it can support multiple guest virtual machines. So why we use hypervisor? Because it reduces space and energy. So we have the benefit of the virtualization, that is its flexibility. We can access it remotely, and we can run multiple operating system on one machine, and it lowers the cost of IT infrastructure, and you can use the different services according to your demand. You can pay and use. Now we have different types of virtualization in the cloud computing, that is server virtualization, storage, hardware, operating system, network, application, desktop. It means we can create virtual environment, that is virtual version of server for the storage, virtual hardware, virtual operating system, virtual network, virtual desktop, virtual applications. Let's see what is hardware virtualization. Hardware virtualization, we need to install the VM virtual machine manager on the hardware. Then after hardware virtualization you can install different operating system on it, and you can run different applications. So where hardware virtualization is used for server platform, because controlling virtual machines is easy as compared to physical machines. Now we have different types for hardware virtualization, that is full virtualization, emulation virtualization, and para-virtualization. In full virtualization, the guest software does not need any kind of modification to run any application. Well, when you will use the hypervisor, then you can see the guest software is installed on the device, so it does not need any kind of modification to run any application. Hardware architecture is completely simulated, and this is complex, and as you know, it's already simulated, so installation of new device driver is difficult. In the emulation virtualization, the virtual machine simulates the hardware and it is independent. And here, guest operating system again doesn't require any kind of modification, and it can run multiple operating systems on the single server. Now we have para-virtualization. In para-virtualization, hardware is not simulated, and instead the guest software run its isolated system. This is easy, and here we require modification to the guest operating system based on the hypervisor. Now what is storage virtualization? It means array of physical servers that are managed by virtual storage system. So using storage virtualization, what you can do, you can manage different physical servers by virtual storage system that looks like a single storage device, and the different storage devices from the different data centers can be managed using storage virtualization. And where we use this storage virtualization in the storage area networks, and we use this for the recovery and the backup of the processes. Now we have desktop virtualization. Here user can use entire computing platform without hardware devices. So after desktop virtualization, user can use computing platform without hardware devices. So user can access the desktop virtually. So we will provide a virtual version of the desktop to the end users. They can access the virtual desktop anywhere from any device, and remotely they can access it remotely. You know the software that is TeamViewer. Using this software you can access the screen of somebody. Now we have benefit of this virtualization is user mobility, easy to update, easy management of the software. Now we have network virtualization. It means ability to run multiple virtual network. So after virtual network virtualization, you can run multiple virtual network, and user can create multiple virtual network from one physical LAN. Provide the facility to create virtual network, logical switch, router, firewall, VPN. So after network virtualization, you can create virtual network, logical switches, routers, virtual private network, firewall. Application virtualization means we can run multiple applications on a computer without relying on a computer hardware and softwares. Now you can access the different virtual applications from the cloud. There is no need for any kind of software, any kind of hardware in order to use particular application. You can access them virtually from the cloud. Users have remote access to the application from a server. Now we have CPU virtualization, that is the virtualization of hardware, is known as CPU virtualization. As you can see here, CPU virtualization involves single CPU. Here single CPU is acting as multiple separate CPUs. After CPU virtualization, single CPU will act as multiple separate CPUs, and the hardware platform that can be controlled by the user or the guest software over the virtual machines on a platform. So here the hardware platform can be controlled by the users, or you can say the guest software over the virtual machines. So why we use CPU virtualization? To run multiple operating system on one machine. After CPU virtualization, you can run different operating system on one machine. So that's all about this video. We discussed what is CPU virtualization. CPU virtualization means we can run different operating system on one machine. After application virtualization, you can use multiple applications on a computer, and there is no need to depend on any kind of hardware or the software. You can access remotely. Now in network virtualization, after network virtualization, you can create virtual network, logical switches, firewall router. Desktop virtualization provide entire computing platform without hardware devices, provide the facility to manage different physical servers by virtual storage system. In the para virtualization, this is not simulated and we need to modify the guest operating system. Full virtualization is hardware architecture is completely simulated. So that's all about this video. So what is virtualization? Virtualization means we are creating a virtual version of something that does not exist physically. So we are creating here virtual version that does not exist physically, and we are providing all the resources virtually to the end users, and we can provide different services to the end user. We can provide virtual network, virtual applications, virtual softwares, virtual network, virtual storage, and many more. So that's all about this video. If you have any question, you can comment below, and thanks for watching this video.